Hi everyone, this is Mentor Tuba. I'm going to discuss an ACP scenario in this video. This is actually a tricky scenario. Let me read it out first and then we are going to discuss. An Agile team is working on a new product to ensure that all unknown issues are clarified before committing to the scope. The team plans to work only on spike user stories for the next 3 sprints. What should the project manager do in this situation? Option A, ensure that the spikes identify the risk early in the project to increase the chances of the success. B, ensure that the business sponsor accepts the proposal and agrees to fund the additional spike sprint. Option C, recommend that in the first sprint, user stories with high priority be executed in addition to the spike. Option D, support the decision because release planning will be improved and the product backlog can be better groomed after all spikes are executed. So to answer this question, the very first and the foremost thing that we need to know is what is a spike? A spike, by definition, is the work that team does during a sprint in the research and development capacity, right? So to explore a tool or to do some hidden trial on a code item, or maybe understanding a new technology, writing some APIs, and maybe understanding some new technique, or maybe new analysis or new way of working, or maybe doing some scenario analysis as well to understand the what if of different situations. You may need a spike. You could have a spike task or spike user stories as well. You could have the whole sprint dedicated to spike as well, which is actually not a good idea. And this is exactly what we are discussing in this scenario. And you could have, spikes in one way or the other as well. But usually the spikes are added as user stories or as tasks to the user stories. So this is one such scenario where some unknown issues are identified, and team is of the opinion that to address those unknown situations and problems to the backlog item, or before committing to the sprint backlog, the team actually does some spike user story, right? And not only for one sprint, but straight for the next 3 consecutive sprints. So what should the project manager do? So we don't have such information available that this has happened in the initial phase of the development, or this has happened in the middle, or I mean the exact point of product development is not known. But even if it is in the start, it is in the middle, it is towards the final releases, the answer is going to be the same. And the answer is spike user stories are needed, most likely needed in every other sprint, most likely needed on as and when and need basis. But saying that you are only going to do R&D work in a respective sprint, and you are not going to deliver anything value added or worthy or demonstrable to your customer or product owner, is clearly against the values of Agile. So the third value of Agile, which is customer collaboration, and the second value of Agile, which is working product, both are going to be compromised with this idea. Maybe as a team, you would be in a better position, in a more confident position for the upcoming sprints after these 3 sprints are going to be executed. For those spikes may or may not be the case, because a spike is clearly a risk management strategy, right? So to deal with certain uncertain situations, you like your team may need spikes, right? Some research-based work, some assessment, some analysis to understand that what's going to be the best possible solution to deal with a certain problem or issue. But a spike does not guarantee value-added result, may or may not be the case, right? So what about the working product? What about the value delivery? What you are going to demonstrate to your product owner and customers for the straight three sprints? What if you don't have any concrete or any tangible results after those spikes? Maybe you have some useful findings, but you don't have anything demonstrable. Straight away, your agile values and principles are going to be compromised. And this is exactly the idea, the answer to this question. That if you need spikes, go with that, but do it in a way that you have a mix of spikes and some value-added items in a way that at least your increment looks presentable, right? So let's check that option by option. Option A. Ensure that the spikes identify the risk early in the project to increase the chances of the success. This is clearly like a senseless idea. I mean, this does not make any sense because spikes, of course, like I said, it's a way of dealing with risk and uncertainty. That's correct. But expecting that spikes are going to identify all the risks early in the project, especially when you are talking about the agile projects, not at all a possibility. Any time during the product development, you may need spikes, you may encounter different type of risk, and you may have to deal with that. And this could even be a possibility in the traditional way of working. So in agile, it's all uncertain, right? Agile is about uncertainty. Anything can change anytime. So how can you ensure that spikes are going to guarantee that all the risks are going to be identified and assessed early in the project? And this is like an explanation of why 3 sprints dedicated to spike is a good idea. Not at all. This is not going to help. Even if you think this way, this may surprise you anytime during the product development. So A is out. B, ensure that the business sponsor accepts the proposal and agrees to fund the additional spike sprint. This is going to be like an affirmation to this thought, which is stated in the scenario. This thought is actually not correct. This thought is against value delivery, customer collaboration, customer engagement, right? So something which is against the agile mindset or which is not being agile, why would we want to convince our sponsor for the approval and just, expecting them to provide you the funds for that, right? So as a project manager, if you are going to go with B, like I said, you are going to see surprises very soon, right? Because this is not the right strategy. The right strategy is actually C. Recommend that in the first sprint, user stories with a high priority be executed in addition to spike. This is exactly what I explained, that if you need a spike, if you are seeing a lot of uncertainty, a lot of volatility or dynamism in your project, that's fine. It happens. It happens in almost every other agile product, especially if you are in the early few sprints or releases of that product. But it could happen anytime, even if in the stable releases as well, you may have to face uncertainty in a couple of sprints. So, and I have been to this situation a lot in my projects, in some of my projects, where some of the teams were doing the same thing and they were doing it wrong and they were not aware that they were wrong. Out of unawareness, they used to be doing the same thing that every other sprint, after that sprint in the review, they just had this one statement that we didn't produce anything concrete, but we have valuable findings, which is exactly like the result of the spikes. But when it comes to value delivery, they didn't have anything to demonstrate. So, and every other time they used to like just keep on carry forwarding the actual user stories and backlog item by saying the same, that this item needs to be carried forward for the reason that this spike is going to just move to the next sprint to continue with our research-based work. I mean, it's okay. You may need research-based work. You may need your analysis. You may need your findings and hit and trials and, different other technical aspects based on your subject matter expertise. But if you are not producing anything concrete, then probably your choice of project management methodology is flawed, right? Because this is not how Agile works. One other thing that I've clearly and apparently would like to talk about over here is that spike would add to the velocity, team velocity. But there is no guarantee that spike is going to add value to your product as well, especially if it is like in the initial phase before MVP or during MVP. So there should be a proper proportion of or a proper mix of spikes and the high priority user stories in a way that that mix produces the increment which genuinely delivers the value as expected by the product owner and your customer and end users. And how that mix is going to be produced, that is like, it could be discretionary, right? It depends on the product and the industry and the market and the nature of the product. But one way or the other, the product owner, the team, the subject matter expert, the business analyst, all of that should work in a way that the C is achievable. Because if altogether all the user stories are parked and only the research-based user stories are in picture, this is clearly an alarm to the product owner for his capabilities and to the team about their awareness and knowledge of agility mindset. Right? And they in this option, they are saying that at least in the first sprint, you pick some user stories to deliver some value, worthiness, usefulness to your customer. But if I had been in the situation, I would say that go for some user stories of the highest priority in every sprint, and maybe go for some of the spikes as well in a way that your team velocity is achievable. I mean, there is no burden on you as a team, but there is no disappointment to your customer as well. Because what about early delivery and fast delivery and value addition and keeping your customer in loop and helping them providing the right feedback and right suggestions and changes? All of that is going to be, I mean, the whole idea is going to be flawed if you're not going to go about it this way. So C is the right thing to do. And why not D? Support the decision. As a project manager, you support the decision because release planning will be improved and the product backlog can be groomed after all specs are executed. There's no guarantee about it. Release planning is going to be improved. Every risk and issue is going to be sorted. Product backlog would look fancy and all sorted. No guarantee. Yes or no? Both possibilities are there, and there is a third possibility, maybe. Right? So D and A and B are actually poor choices. And if you see this behavior in your Agile projects, like any of these behavior, A, B, or D, in this similar situation, then there is a clear missing out on agility mindset, agility values, and agility principles. I hope you like this explanation. I will be back very soon with a new PMP scenario. If you have any questions for me, any queries for me on the scenario, any follow-up questions, maybe not directly related to the scenario, but like anything that comes to you after hearing my explanation, do let me know, and I will definitely get back to you. I'm sharing my other communication channels like my cell number and my email address on the screen as well. So you may reach out to me on these channels as well. So take care. I will be back with a new ACP scenario soon.